Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick, spiritual life coach and host of this week's Her Inspirations, Higher Energetic Resonance Inspirations, and this week the topic is spirituality. We're not human beings having a spiritual experience, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. It's what's right in front of you. You can't live anyone else's life. The task is to live yours and to stop trying to copy anyone you think looks better. From Sandy Nathan, Stepping Off the Edge, learning and living spiritual practice. To begin with is to answer the question, what is spirituality? And I believe that can be answered in so many different ways depending on who you speak to. Spirituality is a place that you can go to for your devotion, your healing, your questioning, your growth. It's a place and a space and an understanding that you have about yourself. It's a place and a space that you can go to when you want to move away from the external, the world, and delve into the deeper knowledge and knowing of yourself. One of the things that I say when people ask me about me being a spiritual life coach is I want to de-dogmatize and woo-woo the whole thing, because I think and I see that it has a lot of weight and a lot of charge around it, a lot of misunderstanding, and also the lack of true definition of what spirituality is. I see how when people look at spirituality, and this is something that got posed to me the other day, where someone was almost challenging me and really asking me what I was about with spirituality, because they were a very staunch Christian and they couldn't see how anything other or any other point of view, and I would suspect that they would feel this way about other religions too, that any other way of belief could have any benefit for anyone else. A lot of misunderstanding around spirituality that also kind of ties in a lot of New Age. People are looking at it and feeling that it's kind of like either woo-woo, totally ungrounded, or it's demonic, satanic, and looking at New Age practices and believing that those New Age practices are from the devil. Now, there are, if you do start to really look into areas of the New Age, into areas and belief systems around New Age and New Age practices, it could be said that there are elements of that are in parallel or the same as satanic practices. You have to really understand both to see the parallel, as opposed to just come forward and decide that something is demonic or satanic without knowing. And when I got challenged, is the only way that I can say that this conversation went, I could see that there was just a total lack of understanding of where I was coming from, and it was a challenge to me, or I was being challenged and goaded to an extent, really, to convince somebody, which is, I'm never about convincing anyone. The only thing that I wanted to do is just to let that person know that I was just not a demon or a demon worshipper. Who knows what they think of me now anyway. I also believe that spirituality and delving into our own personal spirituality at this point in time is more important. I mean, it's always important, but it's increasingly so, is when you do have a spiritual awareness and a spiritual practice, then you'll become very rooted in your center. You get to know and trust your internal voice and your internal interpretation of the world. This is a great protection against the way that things can be and seem to be increasingly. I would say the majority of people in the world are reliant on external validation. They're using media, societal norms or expectations. They are looking to kind of cultural expectation, whether that's within their peer group, whether that's within their profession, their career, their family, their friend group. Their understanding of themselves and their value placed on themselves comes from these external ideals. If we really take a look at the way that society seems to be going, many of those ideals don't necessarily have, or very few of those ideals have the individual in mind in terms of the benefit of the individual. Collectively, you might feel safer because everyone around you is doing the same, but we're not the same. We're individuals with individual perspectives, so it makes no sense that we should be all sausaged into little boxes to do the right thing. And this is why I can see that people have increasing amounts of depression, anxiety, despondency, just feeling that there's something missing from their lives. And if you're always waiting for something outside of you to tell you that you're right or wrong, as opposed to going within and trying to work out what your ideals are, what your standards are, what it is that you really want, what it is that brings you contentment. If you're continually looking outside, if they're trying to please everybody, and anyone who knows about marketing knows that you can't market anything to the mass because the message will get watered down. So if we are refusing to acknowledge the vastness and the depth and delve into who we are on the deepest levels and not take any notice of that, and yet look externally and trying to fit into these external ideals, it's kind of a no-brainer as to why there is no peace. From the Bhagavad Gita, anyone who is steady in his determination for the advanced stage of spiritual realization and can equally tolerate the onslaughts of distress and happiness is certainly a person eligible for liberation. From Amit Ray, you are never alone. You are eternally connected with everyone. Spirituality and religion. And there's a famous quote that goes around. I couldn't actually work out who and where this quote came from, but the quote is, "Religion is for people who are afraid of going to hell. Spirituality is for those who've been there." And it seems that a lot of the time spirituality is something that starts to be explored after there has been some sort of tragedy or crisis in somebody's life. It kind of catapults them into a deeper question and a deeper understanding of themselves and really asking why they are here. Whereas religion, in my experience of religion, is still waiting for a saviour figure, an external figure to come and to make everything right with you. There are benefits to religion. This is not to take away from religion. My background is religion, and I still have a huge respect for people who have a belief system. It's when religion gets dogmatic and narrowed and hugely judgmental, and again, not really understanding that there are other ways of people finding peace and understanding and connectedness than just their specific religion. And spirituality often gets tied in with mindfulness. And while there are overlaps with mindfulness, my take on that would be that mindfulness is almost like a beginning part of spirituality. Mindfulness is very much about being in the present, moving the attention away from the outside world. So it brings you more internal, to be very watchful, to be very aware of your thoughts and your reactions. Then after you've stayed on the mindfulness path for a period of time, I believe after that, if you are interested in your own evolution, you will then want to expand on what that is. You've got yourself in your mind, you've got yourself in that quiet aspect. After that, it may actually spark a curiosity in you as to, now that you're within yourself, what else is there to know? Who are you? What is there possible for you? So it really offers the opportunity to open up on a wider way. And also spirituality and science, again, these two things are often placed on opposite sides of the room, but there are very prominent scientists who who have for many years, many decades in some cases, managed to show the meshing between spirituality and science. I think when people come from science, from a scientific background, or want to believe in something, they want to see the scientific papers, they want to see the testing, they want to see the evidence, irrefutable evidence. The bigger names in that, Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, have been speaking about this and bringing their scientific understanding and knowledge to the spirituality and making it very clear how there is an overlap. A recent find of mine, Lisa Miller, has written a book called The Awakened Brain, and she offers more support for spirituality from a science perspective, and also gives more evidence of spirituality and the healing aspects of spirituality. From Joseph Campbell, your sacred space is where you can find yourself over and over again. Expanding on Lisa Miller's book, talking about how spirituality can be healing. Spirituality gives you the opportunity to delve and really ask questions about yourself, to look at your life in a deeper way, and really understand how it is you see life in general, in terms of society and the way that everyone is living their life. Also how you see how you've lived your life, understanding the things that you may have done, good or bad, right or wrong, but understanding the reasons that you may have done that, but seeing it from a perspective of you being a spiritual being in a human experience. It gives room for understanding, it gives room for forgiveness, it gives room for you to recognize the patterns that may come up in your lives, and to understand whether these patterns are in service to you or not. Ways of exploring spirituality within yourself is, you can start out by reading books, and there is so much information and so many podcasts and YouTube videos and books and films that are out there that can open you up to the ideas of spirituality. There are so many different teachers over the years that, from my eyes, have taken a step on each other's shoulders and expanded on the learning of the generation or the movement before. For people, when they have this spiritual awakening, to them or if I speak about my awareness of my spiritual awakening, it's really difficult for me to say it happened at any one particular point in time, because it just feels like I've always been on this quest. I've always had questions about why. Why do things go this way? Why do I do things this way? Why do people act that way? Why are these things happening to me? And just by being in the question of something, it then opens the world up to you. It means that there is part of you that understands that you are looking for answers, and that part of you will bring the answers to you. I look at books that I read when I was in my teenage years even, and I'm surprised that I even read those books, really, that they've always been around them. I think one of the earliest books that I read that really opened me up to more esoteric ideas would be Florence Scovel Shinn and the game of life and how to play it. It just gave a different perspective on what was possible in life, because up until that point it was like, you do this and this, and then you die, and then you go to heaven, which doesn't sound like a bad thing. But then that way of thinking didn't really offer me the opportunity to see that I was in control of what was happening. And then in the times when I wasn't necessarily in control of what was happening, I had control of my response to it, and I could respond in an empowered way. And then I could actually speak life and possibility into my life and be able to make things happen, manifest things and bring things to me. That aspect of spirituality, and for me there's just a plethora of different ways that this can go, means that it empowered me in a way that religion didn't. From J.M. Newen Henry, the spiritual life does not remove us from the world, but leads us deeper into it. So spiritual practices that people adopt can be journaling, can be prayer, even though people will attribute prayer to be very religious. There is a way of praying, I understand, that is very spiritual without it being dogmatic. You can still speak to God. The language around it, and if I refer back to that challenge that I had, one of the things that really triggered the person who asked me was a lot of people are speaking about the universe, and they just didn't like that. It was a problem for them. Which, when I think about it, is like having someone's belief being a problem for you in itself isn't very heart-centered. For me, I don't have a problem with using the word God. I know people have a real trigger around that, even people who consider themselves to be spiritual. And I believe that's simply because of the way that the word God and everything surrounding God and understanding of Christianity, the way that has been so demonized in society that people fear to even utter the word, even though, everyone, most people will say, oh my God, in moments of surprise or terror. For me, I'm open to people finding their own language. I know the benefits of having a spiritual practice for viewing the world as a spiritual person. And for me, for anybody who's moving into that space and into that path, sooner that they have some language for it than not even delve into this. I don't get offended by it. I think the universe is a nice enough word. I find God to be a bit more powerful. Just a personal opinion, but let people say what they say. For me, I just want to know that people are delving deeper and finding more about themselves, because I believe it will give them a richer experience of life. So meditation, prayer, whatever you want to call God, creator, source, the universe, journaling, deep personal inquiry, especially in meditation, sitting in stillness and really allowing your thoughts to be as they are, but finding that connection with the greater aspect of yourself, feeling that is deep within you, and the noise of the world and the distraction of the world and the desires of the world will pull you in other directions and you'll miss that. But to be with yourself on the deepest of levels, grounds you and roots you in such a way that whatever happens externally can never really take you off for that long, or you understand the reasons why things have to happen, and you can pull away from it or see it for what it is, or recognize the lesson, or even welcome the lesson, even if it may take you into a darker space. And for me, your life is your spiritual path, really. Whether you consider yourself to be spiritual or not, whether you are embracing spirituality or not, your life, your experience is your spiritual path. If we are all spiritual beings, it just depends on whether you choose to really focus and hone and name and acknowledge it, or to live a life not aware of that experience. Because if we are all spiritual beings, if we have the power to experience life as we choose, where we are after our life has ended in this physical space, in this physical awareness, means that we return back to spirit. So then we've just chosen to experience our humanness without the connection of our spirituality. So you may know that I am a spiritual life coach, and the question is always, what is spiritual life coaching? And my explanation of this is it's a process that will combine the elements of personal growth, introspection, to help my clients find clarity, find their purpose, and to get a deeper sense of fulfillment, to really find and unlock their true potential. And that could be despite what they've achieved in the world. I do have clients who are high achievers, and yet for all their worldly success, still have an element where they feel that there is just a sense of emptiness. So spiritual life coaching with me is bringing you in alignment with your spiritual self. As you take time to really explore what that means for you, you'll find that it's limitless. You'll find that it's so powerful. You'll find that it's so still, but it's so comforting, and it can really inform anything that you do in your life. If you're able to retreat to that part of yourself that's internal, that knows everything, that knows you, you can go there with any questions and come out with very clear knowledge and very clear answers, very clear direction. So if you have something that you're going for, having that connection to your higher self is just having that additional awareness. If you are a spiritual being, then why not learn about yourself and all that you can do on that level, on that spiritual level? I'm all about creating your own spiritual practice, creating your own spiritual philosophy. It doesn't have to look like anything that I do. It doesn't have to look like anything that anyone does. It's you finding a way and realizing that you have the power and you have the permission to create something that works for you. So if you are super busy in your life, if you have a high pressure career, it may not work for you to sit in contemplation for hours a day. And to be honest, who would want to do that really? That's not the world that we live in, especially if we live in the West. But there's a way of finding something that works for you, that fits into your life, that you know is you. And the fact that you've found it yourself and that you've cultivated it yourself, and it's something that is doable and believable for you as well, because I feel a lot of the time many of these spiritual practices just feel so far-fetched and unbelievable that to try and bring them into your awareness and make them into a practice, a consistent practice, is difficult, because there's part of your brain that's going, I don't believe this. It's just, it goes down the woo-woo side of things. But if you get a real experience of yourself on a spiritual level, and then you're able to cultivate something that works for you, it just informs your life on a bigger level. My role within that is to help you cultivate that and then see how that aligns with all of the other goals that you have, whether it's something that you just want to bring more richness into your life as it is now, or to go for something that you're creating from scratch and using your spirituality, your spiritual philosophy, and the knowing and the understanding of who you are within yourself to be able to create these things in the world, and to be able to feel that you're doing something worthwhile with your life and not just going for all the external stuff. And this is not about me suggesting that you get rid of all your nice things and wear sackcloth and ashes. I'm not about that, and I don't expect anyone to be about that either. These things are in the world, and these things are in the world for us to enjoy and appreciate, but also to understand that they are not us. There are things that we enjoy in this world, in this realm, until we pass, but not to have all of our identity wrapped up in all the external things. From Ralph Waldo Emerson: make your own Bible, select and collect all the words and sentences that in all your readings have been to you like the blast of a trumpet. My personal purpose in this life is to share with those, to guide those who want to experience the richness of life, despite all of the things that we see, but to be able to walk the world in a very grounded and powerful way, not just in your humanity, but also in your spirituality. For me, it just allows the richest of experiences. It gets you to explore and understand all of the aspects of who you are. You don't have to shift anything about your life, but you'll just have a greater appreciation of what it is that we are doing here. It may inspire you to make massive changes, or it just may inspire you to see people in a different way, understand them in a different way, and also to walk in a way that you just see a huge transformation within yourself. You see how far it is that you can go, the potential that you have to be the biggest that you want to be. And again, this is not necessarily an external thing, but to have just a true, rich, full understanding of the life that we're here living and what it can be for you. And from Carl Jung, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you really are. Thank you for being with me on another episode of Higher Energetic Resonance Inspirations. If you want to join in the Embody Higher Energetic Resonance journey, the link is in the show notes, and it's a free week-long journey to you experiencing that future version of yourself. I call it 3 steps closer to being the woman of your dreams. I'm so happy that so many are getting real value from that. And also, if you want to speak to me about the spiritual life coaching and find out how that works for you, again, there's a link in the show notes where you can book a discovery conversation with me and see if we're fit to work together. If you would like to find out more about me, you can contact me on my website. It's carolmaywhittick.com, CarolMaywhittick.com. You can find me on Instagram, which is Kazmic, Cazmick, and on Facebook, Carol May Whittick. So until the next episode, have a great week. Thank you.